Hey guys, it's Syama here, CEO of Scaling Retail, and boy, it's been another interesting week in the world of retail. We've been hearing about so many different ways in which retailers have been adapting to the way things are. Hey there, thanks for joining. The different ways in which retailers and brands have been adapting to this new COVID landscape. Now, if you guys have been with me over the last few months, you've known that we've stayed on the forefront of what's been happening in the market and how brands are reacting, right? It's one of those things. Hey there, Cece. It's hard to know exactly how to pivot and what to do with your business and your brand. However, guys, we're seeing a lot of direct-to-consumer brands start to make some more aggressive changes as far as what they are doing in terms of customer acquisition and how they're reopening, right? So when you're thinking about a lot of these brick and mortar storefronts, especially these direct-to-consumer brick and mortar storefronts, we've been hearing a lot about some of them who are turning storefronts into warehouses, turning storefronts into their shipping facilities, and trying to find ways in terms of socially distancing that shopping experience. Now, what's challenging about that is when you start to think about a socially distanced shopping experience, what I hear more loud and clear is, hey, this feels more like personal shopping, or this feels more like a custom studio kind of experience. And what that actually means to me, for a lot of you small business owners out there, is that there's actually a huge opportunity to enter into this kind of studio experience for a lot of your customers. Now, of course, not everyone has a studio in LA or New York City, but guys, if you actually have a pretty good local following or you're used to doing in-person selling events, opening up a studio or creating a space like that could be an amazing opportunity to bridge that one-on-one relationship and offer these private shopping experiences. Brands are also taking to Zoom and other digital platforms to do so, and I do believe that starting to look at that customer engagement. You know, one of my favorite clog brands out there, you guys probably all know them, Number 6. They do such a great job with doing their customized shoes, right? You can pick all the leathers, you can pick the body, and then they'll create and send a shoe to you. Now, wouldn't it be so amazing if that kind of experience of shopping or customization or in person actually became something that was done over Zoom, where you had the opportunity to talk with a stylist and purchase something and have a better one-on-one experience. Now, you guys have probably also heard the news that Amazon launched kind of a live personal shopping influencer platform. Again, in another way to be able to bridge kind of that one-on-one experience that you might have while shopping with someone who can help facilitate getting purchases closer to what you want to buy. So personal shopping, customization, looking at things like Zoom and kind of these digital interfaces, I think are ultimately going to be the next way in which we're looking at creating a more standardized COVID type of, very digital landscaped way of providing one-on-one kinds of user experiences. When I look at how Amazon has been shifting and changing and all the different ways in which they've been trying to focus on fashion, despite all their collaborations, it never has fully seemed to be on brand. And I tend to wonder, is Amazon ever going to have its heyday? And maybe for them, it doesn't have to be branded, but it's just more volume based. But if it's not on brand, is it fashion? I don't know. I kind of struggle with that. But when we're starting to think about this personal shopping landscape or being able to create these kinds of customer experiences, my biggest question really comes to these business owners who are used to experiential in store. How are you guys actually innovating in terms of sales through an e-com platform? Just having an e-com platform certainly isn't enough to be able to convert and get repeat purchasing. We have to be looking at investing into new technologies that are going to allow you to actually create a better user experience and have better customer service and provide something that's digitally engaging. So as we're looking into, now we're approaching, midsummer, or early summer rather. Pretty soon it's going to be August, guys. We're looking into the fall. We're now going to be looking to be buying products, in this new personal shopping landscape that are going to range amongst things like high-end purchasing of coats, right? When we think of fall winter clothing, it generally is always at a higher price point. Typically, when we look at sales on a regular retail basis, holiday season tends to be higher volume than the spring. So guys, we're coming up against the back half of the year, which is traditionally some of the most important times of the year for sales for the majority of companies. You should be preparing right now, not just for your COVID contingency plans, but how you're actually going to be creating a compelling holiday program, both in terms of online advertising, newsletter marketing, organic, as well as with customer service and through new product assortment. And if you're not thinking about the holiday now, and you're not thinking about those collaborations and launches now, you're not going to be able to pivot appropriately by the time the season comes around. Why? Because you're going to be up against issues in terms of finding collaborations. Most of your brand partnerships might already be booked. Production is going to be having another slowdown as we start to see things reopen. Bigger brands are getting their items pushed out sooner in terms of priority on production. And we're ultimately going to be seeing a much more challenging holiday season without planning properly. Now, on the financial side of things, as we're looking at how the economy is changing, a lot of unemployed workers right now are concerned about their resources drying up. I know that many of the businesses that I've been speaking to have been struggling to find employees. Hiring people has been a struggle. And the reason has been in terms of, this kind of mid-level skilled labor. It's really been because unemployment, for many of the companies I've been speaking to, unemployment has actually been providing these people a lot more resources and security than going back into the job market. So what we're hoping to be able to see in the next few months is a return to the labor market. Certainly some of the news that we're hearing coming out of Oxford these days with promising results for a vaccination, that's also possibly going to help us open back up the economies. But until that happens, guys, we have to continue to proceed forward because holiday is still going to happen and people are still going to be with their families and people are still going to be buying presents. And as we're seeing different industries reopen and sales rebounding, right, which I think is still very much growing and on the front lines, it's important that we look very optimistically to the future as opposed to thinking about it in a contractionary basis. Certainly, depending on who you talk to, some people will say that we're approaching a time in our country's history much like and worse than the Great Depression. This is certainly an opportunity to take stock of your personal direction in terms of what's important to you and where you see your future. And those of you out there who should not be business owners will likely not end up being business owners. And those of you who still will find in ways to innovate, find resources, stretch that dollar and find ways of creating more value, will continue to persevere. So really during moments like this, it becomes survival, not of the fittest exactly, but it's some sort of survival mechanism that we all get launched into. And your capacity to be able to be agile and nimble and to be able to leverage resources and get help where you can is ultimately going to save your ass. And so I think that that's very important to think about that. On the personal side, as we've been thinking about how mobile we are or how much of a global travelers we all are, it's been sad to not be able to plan my trips and go to market like I normally would. However, guys, people are finding ways of doing their buys digitally, and it's very exciting. And I think there's a lot that's very promising. Cabana just launched their digital platform. Liberty Fairs is going to be launching their digital platform. So when it comes to still connecting and it comes to selling, it's not that trade shows are forsaken. In fact, it's going to become increasingly important to become a part of a digital trade show simply because of all the noise out there. So now when an email is basically fair game and everyone's, leveraging emails so heavily, going into a curated marketplace and being able to work with vendors who you normally would or see exposure to vendors that you normally would see maybe new exposure to in a platform like that is important. So I would highly suggest looking at these trade shows as a sales channel for yourself if you're thinking about how you're going to be selling go forward seasons. The other thing I think is fascinating, you guys have probably been hearing me talk about the off-price show, honestly, because it's like a kind of a new discovery for me, and I am excited about the off-price market. What I think is fascinating here is, the off-price market is basically ATS. And so a lot of small businesses out there wonder what the hell they're going to do with canceled POs, wonder what they're going to be doing with the ATS that they have. who's buying, who's not buying. And so looking at a platform like the Off-Price 365, I think is interesting because you're basically able to sell carryover in-season and aged merchandise. And that I think is like a really critical thing, because if you have the ability to now reach a much broader audience, and to be honest, like if you're a cool brand in the Off-Price show, you're going to get a lot of play. You know, if you take a look at the assortment there, there's a lot, I think, a lot of opportunity for brands that have contemporary designs and contemporary brands to do well. So I would suggest thinking about how the hell do I get rid of ATS or aged goods or carryover? And then also, how am I finding kind of these digital platforms to be able to connect to buyers? Buyers currently are still going to be quite hesitant in terms of making big buys. So again, this is a time where you're going to be asking yourselves, what are the relationships that I have with my existing manufacturers? Where can I get terms in my business? And how can I stretch my relationship so I can actually get a little bit more done here than I thought, right? Or kind of stretch it out a bit further. In terms of new product categories, masks continue to be a huge volume driver in the industry. In fact, we're seeing companies like, Ariel Charnas with her something navy. She came out with a mask. I mean, we're seeing a lot of competition and volume of business being done in that market, which is very exciting. From what I can tell and what I've been hearing from some of my friends out there who are doctors in the landscape, masks are going to become a part of our daily lives for the foreseeable future, but certainly as we rebound from COVID, which will happen, as we rebound from COVID, we will be looking at masks in terms of a cyclical kind of seasonal approach. So cold season, flu season, these are going to be key opportunities where we're looking at protecting ourselves, protecting other people. So how you guys look to expand that into your assortment is important. I love how one of my former clients Rode, what they ended up doing, which was taking their older dead stock fabric from some of their other styles, and they actually ended up creating masks, and then they have matchback masks that go back to their really cute and awesome dresses. So think about your business modeling, category assortment planning, in ways that are strategic. There is no one size fits all. I sometimes get on the call with people who are really interested in growing their business, and they think that their number one issue is access to capital, and they think they need PR or marketing. And most likely, if your business is not already launched and successful, PR and marketing is not your issue, right? If you already have a successful brand, you are getting good volume, etc., then yes, advertising and marketing is the area you need to go into. But guys, for most of you, really looking at your brand value proposition, how your business is evolving right now in light of this new digital competitive landscape, and also in light of some of the major issues that are coming up around diversity and inclusion, also very important. I don't want us to stop thinking about these concepts as we look into business strategy and what we stand for as organizations, because it's very important that you develop philosophies and missions around this. Again, not just for the sake of your customers and for branding, but for the sake of your employees, for the sake of you, for the sake of all of it, right? So developing a approach that I think is that's going to be important. Now, what I'm also really excited about is we got a couple of really amazing webinars coming up. In fact, I'm going to be doing one around fundraising and raising capital with Lauren Kane, who does VC Worthy. And what I love about Lauren is, she comes from behind the scenes of raising capital for female CEOs, and boy, that's really cool, right? It's an interesting space to live and be in. And so what I love about Lauren is we're going to be going over business building, but also capital and fundraising. And so if you guys are on our newsletter, stay tuned because we're going to announce that as soon as we pick a date. And then the other webinars we have going on, we're doing another one with Liberty Fairs, all around brick and mortar and kind of the next stage and next wave of brick and mortar. It's really going to be for those of you guys who have space or who want to have space, what does the future of space look like? How are you actually incorporating space in a way that is customer friendly and conversion friendly, and also COVID friendly? And then what's some other cool stuff we have going on? This is cool. So we are doing something with Fashion Go. And what's super cool about that is it's basically all about starting an online e-com business. So if you guys have friends who are kind of newbies in the space and are wondering, like, how do I open up my e-com platform? What's the landscape going to look like for that? That I think is going to be amazing. We're going to talk a little bit about how to do buying as a new online retailer. So what is that going to look like in this landscape? Gosh, it's so crazy, right? It used to be you'd go to trade shows and just kind of be surprised and delighted and meet new brands and facilitate relationships. And these things are kind of stressed now, right? We have stressors across markets like that. So that's coming up with Fashion Go. And then we'll be doing something around ATS and kind of how to think about ATS. And that's coming up in August. So lots of really cool media stuff on our end. We're still working with some amazing clients on our agency projects, from brand DNAs to communication and marketing strategies, brand positioning, brand identities, advertising. So our clients are, thank you. Our clients are doing some really incredible work. I'm just so utterly proud of our brands who've launched in the last few weeks, getting great press, doing good volume. It's hard to imagine, right? When you think about how challenging these times are, but I've also been doing some investing in myself. I'm wrapping up a course at the Harvard Business School on disruptive strategies and innovation theory, different ways in which we can, create new disruptive models in the industry. So if anyone out there is looking to do something big and exciting, gosh, I've got some ideas and some ways to do that. And then I'm also wrapping up another class at Columbia Business School on negotiations. And so the coolest thing about that is, I'm already quite good at negotiating, but I was able to take this class and immediately work with a client on renegotiating her showroom contract and the ways in which we can better leverage deals. So lots of new learning for me to be able to better help our industry and help people to make better decisions all the time. I hope you guys are also doing a lot of learning, not only through me, but through other platforms, and also through me. So sign up on our newsletter, make sure that you join us for these upcoming webinars and cool things that we're up to. As I learn, I share. So excited to share things with you guys. And as usual, we are continuing with our consulting sessions on Fridays, which are like our live sessions. Those are super cool. If you guys haven't had a chance to see it, please check out our IGTV and see what it's like. None of those are pre-rehearsed. I have no idea what the conversation's going to be like. It's literally a brand. We get on the phone and we workshop stuff. And it's exciting for me because I get to be agile and nimble, and no one's thrown me a curveball that I haven't yet been able to deal with. But they're really fun. And I think it also gives you guys an idea of how we work at scaling retail, what our philosophies are, and how we think about things. So lots of good stuff going on, super busy. Seems like you probably are too. And I think that's it, guys. So thanks for tuning in. I hope you're well. I hope your businesses are well. I hope you're pivoting or pursuing, depending on where you are in your customer lifetime journey. And otherwise, I'll talk to you later. Thanks. Bye.